Hi, I'm Tim Gilbert. I'm your Business 320 instructor, and I want to talk to you about Chapter 4, Probability, and this is our second video. We're going to introduce a couple new concepts and build off the concepts we've already touched on in the first video, respective to probability. So let's take a look at another cross-tabulation here. And we've got a headache and no headache for 100 subjects. And we've got medication and no medication. So the headache, the likelihood of getting a headache is 80 divided by 100. The likelihood of no headache is 20 divided by 100. Remember, we're working out here in the margins in the column, and that gives us our old frequency diagram. Now, the likelihood of getting someone with medication, 32 out of 100, 32%, and a placebo, 68 out of 100, 68%. So let's review that a little bit in question format. 1 in 100 is selected randomly. What's the likelihood of getting somebody with a headache? 80 out of 100. If 1 in 100 subjects randomly selected, what's the likelihood of getting someone treated with the medication? Medication, 32 out of 100, 32%. And there's our answer to question 1, 80 out of 100, likelihood of getting somebody with a headache. Question 2, likelihood of getting someone with treatment of medication. Question 3, if 1 in 100 is selected, what's the likelihood? Find the probability of getting someone who had a headache or was treated. So our big issue here is let's not double count where the medication and headache meet. So the likelihood of getting medication is 15 and 17. It's 32. And the likelihood of getting a headache is just 65 more added on to that. So that's 97. So 97 subjects had a headache or were treated with medication. Here they had both, but that's okay. We can count that one time. So we've got 17, 15, and 65 takes us up to 97. 15, 17, 65 over 100 is 97 over 100 is 0.97. If one of our 100 subjects is randomly selected, find the probability of getting someone who was treated with a placebo or did not have a headache. So let's count all the people with a placebo. Everybody in this column, 68. Let's count all the people who did not have a headache. 17. We don't want to double count the 3. We counted the placebo and then the additional people who did not have a headache, 17. So 17 and 3 is 60 plus 65 is 85 over 100, 85% chance of getting someone who either took the placebo or had a headache. Question 5. 2 different subjects are randomly selected. Find the probability they both use placebos. This is the multiplication rule. We're going to take 2 subjects. So our first subject we're going to select out of 100. In our first poll we're going to say that they had a placebo. So 68 out of 100, 68% chance, and we'll say, okay, we got somebody with a placebo. What's the likelihood that we'll get 2 in a row? Well, we multiply the likelihood of the first event, which is 68 over 100, times the likelihood of the second event. And that's reduced by 1 person, 67, because we already have one of the 68 in hand, over 99. We already have one less than 100 people. So 68 over 100 times 67 over 99 is 0.4602, or 46% chance that we'll get somebody, 2 people in a row with a placebo. That's the multiplication rule. 2 people in a row. It's the likelihood of the first, 68 over 100, times the likelihood of the seconds, 67 over 99. Question 2. If two different subjects are selected, find the probability they both had a headache. Okay. Both the first subject gets selected. Well, that's 80 out of 100. I get that person with a headache. What's the likelihood I'll get a second one? 79 over 99, because I've already got one out of the population. So 80 over 100 times 79 over 99 is 0.638, or a 63.8% chance that I'll get somebody with a headache twice in a row. Somebody with a headache twice in a row. Okay, if one subject's randomly selected, find the probability that he or she had a headache given the subject was treated with 10 milligrams. Oh, this is back to our old given statement that we covered in the first video. Okay, given, that means given that they were treated with the 10 milligrams, so I know that 32 is the denominator, and 15 is going to be the numerator. So, if they had a headache, given that they had a headache, what's the likelihood, given that they had medication, so I put 32 in the denominator, what's the likelihood they had a headache, and just put 15 in the numerator, and that gives me 0.469, or 46.9%. If one subject's randomly selected, find the probability that he or she was treated with 10 milligrams of medication given that the subject had a headache. That's the one I wanted to go to earlier, but let's state that again. Given they had a headache, so I take that 80, put it right in the denominator, and the likelihood that they had medication, I put in the numerator, 15 over 80, 0.187. So 18.7% chance that someone who, given they had a headache, took medication. So those are our 8 questions related to our new cross-tabulation table, and I wanted to do this to reinforce to you how we can use cross-tabulation based off our relative frequency out here in the margins, and then internally to do multiplication, use the multiplication rule of probability. We can use the or statement saying medication or a headache. We can calculate that situation, and we can also calculate our conditional probability that we got from our first video. So now you've got a number of ways to look at probability, and all practical, all hands-on, and I hope that you can use some of them in your OLP. It'll make it a much stronger document if you can arrange some of your outcomes this way, so you can analyze conditional probability, relative frequency, and or kinds of statements. And just don't make it overcomplicated. Go back to these questions, get an understanding on them. Good luck on the homework. Take care.